What's going on, everybody? Today we're here to talk about a special project and band, and that band is called Coheed and Cambria. So, if you don't know about Coheed, they are a very unique band, and their genre can be best described as progressive rock, alternative rock, post-hardcore emo progressive metal. So, they have their own genre, basically. They have created a genre that is probably most well known by Welcome Home, but they've made tons of albums. Their band is over 20 years old at this point, and they are just a great band that has just been producing quality music for a long time. And also, they do shit like this. So what makes Coheed and Cambria unique? One of them, I said already, they pretty much have created their own genre of music that is just something that's so incredible to listen to and hear. And it really doesn't matter if you like that type of music anyway, because you probably find a song that you like by them, knowing them. But another thing that's unique about Coheed and Cambria is their frontman, Claudio Sanchez, has been writing comic books that go along with their albums, which is really awesome. So they've got a couple series out. One of them is the Amory Wars. There's a few kind of shorter comics, and most recently they've been working on a 5-part series called Vaxis, which has just released their third iteration of that story, which has resulted in the third album. So that just dropped this weekend. It's really awesome, and this is how a band basically creates a cult following, right? They have a comic book and a story related to most of their albums. There was only one album that Coheed did that did not relate to an album, and that was released in 2015. Still great music, but it just was not tied to the story. But anyway, as I said, the fifth iteration of Vaxis is going to be the end of that story, but the third part of the story has come out this weekend. So what is unique about this one is it actually relates back to one of their previous stories called The Afterman. So the whole series kicks off with something called the Amory Wars, where there are two rival parties kind of warring over the keywork, which is kind of like space and heaven combined. There's a lot of mysteries about the keywork, but basically around 2013, they created a dual album called Afterman, and the two parts of it were Ascension and Descension. And that really centered a story around a scientist that named Cyrus Amory, who was trying to do exploration and understand what the keywork was about. So that is the namesake of the Amory Wars that we talked about earlier. But the Afterman was basically his story. So all this took place before the other stories. So the Afterman is unique in the fact that it had a book that went with it, but there's not a full-blown comic that went with it. And that is very interesting because there's a lot of interesting concepts in the story, which I'll explain in a bit. And there's a few graphic representations and drawings and things of what happened in the story, but there's no comic book. There's no full-blown story with graphics, frame for frame, like what you might expect with some of the other ones from Coheed. So I'll give you a brief rundown of the story, but I'm not going to tell you the whole thing because I want you to go listen to the album. And you can read about the story online and possibly play the game, which I'll be talking about in the bulk of this video. But basically what happens in Afterman is it's a story of Cyrus Amory traveling to the keywork to figure out how it works and what he can learn from it. And basically what happens to him is he gets possessed by these entities that he is placed into their memories throughout the story. So he gets possessed by kind of a failed boxer. He gets possessed by a woman who wanted to be famous, and it kind of drove her mad. And he gets possessed by some military figures that got into some poor situations. and he's also kind of rescued by another entity where he finds out there's basically two layers of the key work that those who are still troubled stay in one area known as the mono, and those who have done quote unquote good things or done well or have shed their human frustrations go over into the utopia side, which is more colorful. So this is what he learns as he's in the key work. Unfortunately, that's not the end of the story, because that's the Ascension part. The Descension part is when he actually comes back. So what I didn't tell you about the beginning part is that his marriage is quite troubled over these explorations, and he gets into arguments with his wife because she doesn't want him to go up there, and she does not want to go with him. So they kind of have this troubled relationship. And add into that she would like to have children, and he really doesn't. So he gets into some trouble up in the key work, and Descension is him actually returning to his home planet, Valencine, thinking that, and where his wife had thought he basically perished. So that's kind of the ending that I'll leave it at. So let's talk about why I actually made this game. There's three main reasons that I made the game. This was early on when I first started learning how to use GB Studio and how to do all the coding. So I had made Ninja Nick, and that was kind of my own story, my own dialogue. And my nephew was cracking on me that said my dialogue was too much like me. So, I took that personally. And what I liked about this story and this music, first of all, I love the album. Probably, I don't know if it's my favorite Coheed album, but it's up there. This is really great songs. Lots of different styles that are great. But basically, the first reason is, a lot was given to me. The dialogue was pretty much given to me through the lyrics. The storyline was given to me, or it was already in place. So I just wanted to focus on making the game and making the graphics, what I imagine the graphics or the story would look like, what Cyrus Amory would look like, and what his wife would look like, and what the entities would look like. So this game is a way for me to just focus on those things. Like I said, it was pretty new. I actually only learned how to use avatars in this game, which I used to kind of demonstrate what I thought the entities would look like. But it was basically a way for me to make another game with a lot of the questions that I had in the first iteration kind of answered for me. And I wanted to use that to my advantage. So I focused on the art, I focused on the programming, and I just focused on making another game. I think I would have done a lot of things differently. Like, I think the maze, which he goes through in Domino, could have been more detailed. And I think some of the text is a little bit weird. The text boxes and different things. I think I could have been more detailed with a few things. The second reason is basically there is no visual representation of the story. There's a kind of a coffee table book and there's drawings that kind of show what things might look like, but they didn't really fit this art style and things like that. So, like I said, I wanted to visually represent this story because I really like the album. Then the last one is, I wanted to promote the band. I wanted to promote the music in a different way, because this is just a unique way that I thought I could highlight this band and the story and all the other stories that they've done, right? Because once you get into this story, you want to get into the Emery Wars and this current series, Vaxis, and some of the other ones that have gone on previous to and after this. So what's interesting about this one, like I said before, is now in the Vaxis series, this new album, The Father of Make Believe, Cyrus has somehow entered the story again. And we don't know how time operates in the keywork, but somehow he's re-entered the game, because there's many callbacks to the album and the story in this record. So those are the big reasons why I wanted to make this game, because and this is a great time to talk about it because Vaxis 3 just came out. So the three big reasons: there's really no visual representation. I wanted to focus on the art and the programming, and I really just wanted to basically promote the story and promote the band. So that's why I created Afterman Ascension on GB Studio and posted it to itch.io a couple years ago, because I just thought it was cool, and I thought it was a cool way to pay tribute to the band, and I really like the story and the music. So you guys definitely check it out. I've told you a little bit about the story, but really the best way to probably do it is to read the online articles, play the game, and listen to the music to get the full experience. And that's one of the cool ways that this band kind of transcends their music, transcends the power of their music by doing that. So you guys definitely check it out. Let me know what you think, and I hope you have a good time listening to the new album that just came out. Talk to you guys later.